February 1, 1897. On returning to my vessel, I found waiting for me the letter of sympathy which I subjoin. A lady sends Mr. Slocum the enclosed £5 note as a token of her appreciation of his bravery in crossing the wide seas on so small a boat, and all alone, without human sympathy to help when danger threatened. All success to you. To this day, I do not know who wrote it, or to whom I am indebted for the generous gift it contained. I could not refuse a thing so kindly meant, but promised myself to pass it on with interest at the first opportunity, and this I did before leaving Australia. The season of fair weather around the north of Australia being yet a long way off, I sailed to other ports in Tasmania, where it is fine the year round. The first of these being Beauty Point, near which are Beaconsfield and the great Tasmania gold mine, which I visited in turn. I saw much grey, uninteresting rock being hoisted out of the mine there, and hundreds of stamps crushing it into powder. People told me there was gold in it, and I believed what they said. I remember Beauty Point for its shady forest and for the road among the tall gum trees. While there, the Governor of New South Wales, Lord Hampden, and his family came in on a steam yacht, sightseeing. The Spray, anchored near the landing pier, threw her bunting out, of course, and probably a more insignificant craft bearing the Stars and Stripes was never seen in these waters. However, the Governor's party seemed to know why it floated there, and all about the Spray, and when I heard His Excellency say, "Introduce me to the captain," or "Introduce the captain to me," whichever it was, I found myself at once in the presence of a gentleman and a friend, and one greatly interested in my voyage. If any one of the party was more interested than the Governor himself, it was the Honourable Lady Margaret, his daughter. On leaving, Lord and Lady Hampden promised to rendezvous with me on board the Spray at the Paris Exposition in 1900. If we live, they said, and I added for my part, dangers of the seas excepted. From Beauty Point, the Spray visited Georgetown, near the mouth of the River Tamar. This little settlement, I believe, marks the place where the first footprints were made by whites in Tasmania, though it never grew to be more than a hamlet. Considering that I had seen something of the world, and finding people here interested in adventure, I talked the matter over before my first audience in a little hall by the country road. A piano having been brought in from a neighbour's, I was helped out by the severe thumping it got, and by a Tommy Atkins song from a strolling comedian. People came from a great distance, and the attendance, all told, netted the house about £3 sterling. The owner of the hall, a kind lady from Scotland, would take no rent, and so my lecture from the start was a success. From this snug little place, I made sail for Devonport, a thriving place on the River Mersey, a few hours' sail westward along the coast, and fast becoming the most important port in Tasmania. Large steamers enter there now, and carry away great cargoes of farm produce. But the Spray was the first vessel to bring the Stars and Stripes to the port, the harbour master, Captain Murray, told me, and so it is written in the port records. For the great distinction, The Spray enjoyed many civilities, while she rode comfortably at anchor in her port duster awning, that covered her from stem to stern. From the magistrate's house Malunna on the point, she was saluted by the Jack, both on coming in and on going out. And dear Mrs. Aikenhead, the mistress of Malunna, supplied the Spray with jams and jellies of all sorts by the case, prepared from the fruits of her own rich garden, enough to last all the way home and to spare. Mrs. Wood, farther up the harbour, put up bottles of raspberry wine for me. At this point, more than ever before, I was in the land of good cheer. Mrs. Powell sent on board chutney, prepared as we prepare it in India. Fish and game were plentiful here, and the voice of the gobbler was heard, and from Pardo, farther up the country, came an enormous cheese. And yet people inquire, what did you live on? What did you eat? I was haunted by the beauty of the landscape all about, of the natural ferneries then disappearing, and of the domed forest trees on the slopes, and was fortunate in meeting a gentleman intent on preserving in art the beauties of his country. He presented me with many reproductions from his collection of pictures, also many originals to show to my friends. By another gentleman, I was charged to tell the glories of Tasmania in every land and on every occasion. This was Dr. McCall, M.L.C. The doctor gave me useful hints on lecturing. It was not without misgivings, however, that I filled away on this new course. And I am free to say that it is only by the kindness of sympathetic audiences that my oratorial bark was held on even keel. Soon after my first talk, the kind doctor came to me with words of approval. As in many other of my enterprises, I had gone about it at once, and without second thought. Man, said he, great nervousness is only a sign of brain, and the more brain a man has, the longer it takes him to get over the affliction. But, he added reflectively, you will get over it. However, in my own behalf, I think it only fair to say that I am not yet entirely cured. The Spray was hauled out on the marine railway at Devonport, and examined carefully top and bottom, but was found absolutely free from the destructive teredo and sound in all respects. To protect her further against the ravage of these insects, the bottom was coated once more with copper paint, for she would have to sail through the Coral and Arafura seas before refitting again. Everything was done to fit her for all the known dangers. But it was not without regret that I looked forward to the day of sailing from a country of so many pleasant associations. If there was a moment in my voyage when I could have given it up, it was there and then. But no vacancies for a better post being open, I weighed anchor April 16, 1897, and again put to sea. The season of summer was then over. Winter was rolling up from the south, with fair winds for the north. A foretaste of winter wind sent the spray flying round Cape Howe and as far as Cape Bunduro farther along, which she passed on the following day, retracing her course northward. This was a fine run, and boded good for the long voyage home from the Antipodes. My old Christmas friends on Bunduro seemed to be up and moving when I came the second time by their cape, and we exchanged signals again, while the sloop sailed along as before, in a smooth sea and close to the shore. The weather was fine, with clear sky the rest of the passage to Port Jackson, where the Spray arrived on April 22, 1897. And anchored in Watson's Bay near the Heads in 8 fathoms of water. The harbour, from the Heads to Parramatta up the river, was more than ever alive with boats and yachts of every class. It was indeed a scene of animation, hardly equalled in any other part of the world. A few days later, the bay was flecked with tempestuous waves, and none but stout ships carried sail. I was in a neighbouring hotel then, nursing a neuralgia which I had picked up along shore, and had only that moment got a glance of just the stern of a large, unmanageable steamship, passing the range of my window as she forged in by the point, when the bellboy burst into my room shouting that the Spray had gone bung. I tumbled out quickly to learn that bung meant that a large steamship had run into her, and that it was the one of which I saw the stern, the other end of her having hit the Spray. It turned out, however, that no damage was done beyond the loss of an anchor and chain, which, from the shock of the collision, had parted at the hawse. I had nothing at all to complain of, though, in the end, for the captain, after he clubbed his ship, took the Spray in tow up the harbour, clear of all dangers, and sent her back again in charge of an officer and 3 men to her anchorage in the bay, with a polite note saying he would repair any damages done. But what yawing about she made of it when she came with a stranger at the helm. Her old friend, the pilot of the Pinta, would not have been guilty of such lubberly work. But to my great delight they got her into a berth, and the neuralgia left me then, or was forgotten. The captain of the steamer, like a true seaman, kept his word, and his agent, Mr. Collishaw, handed me on the very next day the price of the lost anchor and chain, with something over for anxiety of mind. I remember that he offered me £12 at once, but my lucky number being 13, we made the amount £13, which squared all accounts.